Okay. Uh, Opening the quotes now. Okay. Starting time. Batman is a pretty lucky guy. I know his parents got murdered, um, but they did leave him a $1 billion business and a $1 billion fortune. Perfect for funding his weird hobbies, punching criminals in the street. Meanwhile, Wayne Enterprises is run by thousands of diligent workers doing their part to keep his lights on. This brings us to today's quote. I am a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it, from Stephen Leacock. This quote, it means that the harder someone works, the more good fortune they will have, the more luck they have. This is not true. I would say it's the opposite of true, actually. Luck and hard work mix like oil and water. For two reasons. The luckiest people are already at the top of society, and the people with the least amount of luck do the most amount of work. So, to begin, the luckiest people are already at the top. They do not need to work hard. An example of this would be the Romanovs, specifically Nicholas II, the last Tsar of Russia. Nicholas was born into a life of luxury and power in a country where most people were living in feudal conditions, toiling in the dirt for their entire lives. Meanwhile, Nicholas was, traveling the world and getting tattoos and taking centuries-old selfies, right? Eventually, he would lead his people into a war that he did not understand, that he could not lead them through, and was overthrown. I bring him up because he is a perfect example of the typical idea of what it means to be born at the top of society. He was born free from hard work, and it made him ignorant, and it led to his downfall. Another way of illustrating this idea would be looking at the Marxist model of social stratification. The Marxist model of social stratification is Marx's way of depicting the divisions within society. He divided society by class, two classes. You have the bourgeoisie capital owning class at the top, and the bottom proletariat worker class at the bottom. Now, I'm sure that the bourgeoisie at the top, who own all the capital, work very hard as they send emails and go to meetings and make their tough shots. And they're almost exclusively born into these positions as well. But the proletariat, the working class below them, are the ones who are actually doing the work, who are actually, working the stores, working the fast food restaurant, working coal mines for 8 hours a day to keep the lights on, right? The people at the top, the bourgeoisie, were lucky enough to be born into that position, and so that they don't have to toil like the rest of us. Next, people with the least amount of luck, do the most amount of work for the least amount of acknowledgement. To illustrate this, I'd like to bring up the great man theory of history. What this is a critique of the way that we often get taught history. When you're growing up in school, you're often taught history through a very narrow lens, that social change and social movements are fueled by the sole decisions of men in power who are powerful enough to make the right call, right? When you learn about the American Revolution in 5th grade, you get taught that the founding fathers were there, George Washington and the rest of them, calling the shots, leading the revolution. You don't get to learn about the average soldier who was actually the one fighting and securing the revolution. You don't get to hear about the farmers who fed the revolution and kept it going. Right? The people who do the most amount of work in history get the least amount of acknowledgement because they are the unlucky ones, the unlucky worker class who go forgotten. A more specific example of this would be Bob Kane and Bill Finger. These are the co-creators of Batman. Now, it is technically true that Bob Kane came up with the idea of creating a superhero and calling him Batman. But that was about the end of his ideas. He was an uncreative hack, so he hired ghostwriters and ghost artists to do all the work for him. That's where Bill Finger comes in. Bill Finger was hired by Bob Kane to create Batman. And he did, uncredited, for decades. His family had to fight in court to have his name be put on the products of Batman stories. Again, we witness how the unlucky workers go forgotten and they go unthanked. So, in conclusion, this quote about how hard work brings good luck is totally bunk, and I think I proved that.